There are more than 150 pickleball paddle brands competing for your money right now, and I am going to make an argument that most of them have no reason to exist. Not that their paddles break, that they are redundant, the same overseas factory, the same shared mold, the same carbon off the same menu, a different logo, a higher price. The market has already started deleting them quietly, and I will show you the data. Then I am going to tell you the only 2 brands I would spend my own money on today, name them outright, and explain exactly why. And then I'm going to do the one thing no sponsored channel would ever do at the end of a video like this. I'm going to hand you the 4 questions that let you overrule me. Because a man telling you there are exactly 2 brands worth buying is precisely what a bot man sounds like. This channel takes no sponsor money and no kickbacks. Let me prove it by arguing myself out of the last word. So let me make the argument properly, because garbage is a strong word and it deserves a precise definition. I am not claiming 99% of paddles are defective, unusable, or dangerous. Plenty of them play fine. I am claiming something more damning, that the overwhelming majority of pickleball brands are redundant, contributing no engineering, no innovation, and no reason for you to choose them over the next logo on the wall, while charging you as though they had. Start with the structure. More than 150 brands now compete for court space in 2026, and the top 5, names like Selkirk, Jula, Engage, Paddletech, and Franklin, together control only about 41% of the global market, with the leader holding roughly 7%. That leaves well over 145 companies fighting over the remaining share, most of them selling paddles that are functionally interchangeable. Industry analysts name market saturation as one of the biggest threats to the sport's commercial future, and the reason is exactly what I'm describing, because even continued growth in the number of brands represents fierce competition rather than genuine expansion. Now watch the market itself pass judgment. New paddle certifications peaked at 1,293 submissions in 2024, the height of the gold rush, when every garage entrepreneur and overseas factory piled in. That number fell 27% in 2025, and is on pace for around 518 this year, roughly 60% below peak in 2 years. Hundreds of brands are exiting the sport without announcements. The market is not being cruel. It is doing arithmetic, deleting the companies that never added anything, and the survivors are the ones that did. For players, that collapse is the clearest possible evidence for the thesis. If the 99% were contributing something real, they would still be here. But why do 150 brands exist at all? Here is the mechanism, and it is the single most useful fact in this entire video. Most pickleball brands do not manufacture their own paddles. They order them from a network of overseas contract factories, predominantly in China, through what the industry calls OEM and ODM production. OEM means the brand brings a design and the factory builds it. ODM means the factory already has the paddle designed, and the brand picks one from a catalog, adds a logo and packaging, and sells it. Either way, the company whose name is on the face may never touch a manufacturing line. These factories are not hiding. They publish buyer's guides, and one of them states plainly that a brand can launch with as few as 50 units, and that the resulting paddle will look similar to competitors using the same base design, the same core, the same carbon frame. That is the 99% in one sentence. And the carbon everyone markets as proprietary? It is a menu option. The factory pricing sheets let a buyer choose between T700, 3K, or 18K carbon weaves, which means the exact carbon grade the premium brands build their entire marketing around is a checkbox on an order form, available to any brand at the same factory. The economics complete the picture. Typical OEM production runs $10 to $35 per paddle, dropping to $16 to $22 at volume, and the same guides note that a well-executed branding package can raise a paddle's perceived retail value by 20 to 30%, even when the paddle structure remains completely unchanged. Same paddle, same structure, 30% more perceived value from branding alone. That is not a conspiracy. It is a business model, and it is why 150 logos can exist on top of a dozen factories. Quick one before I name the two. Everything I dug up going through this industry is in one place. The paddle trap, dossier number 01. What the power cap really changed, what your money actually buys, and the 9 paddles that quietly beat their price. 27 pages, real paddles, real prices, 0 sponsors, and it takes no money or free product from any paddle company. Links in the description. Now stay with me, because the 2 brands that survive this argument are next, and then I am going to argue against myself. Before the 2 names, let me show you the 4 ways the 99% actually fail, because a brand can be redundant in more than one direction, and you should be able to spot each. Failure mode 1 is the pure logo, the ODM brand that picked a paddle from a factory catalog, printed its name on it, and priced it like engineering. Nothing about it is wrong except the price and the pretense, and you identify it by the absence of anything specific. No published swing weight, no twist weight, no core spec, just adjectives. Failure mode 2 is the fake spec, the listing stacked with the vocabulary smart buyers learn to look for. T700 carbon, thermoformed foam-injected edge, all for $50. As one manufacturer's own breakdown put it, the word carbon on a cheap listing can be technically accurate. The same way contains real fruit juice qualifies as truth on candy packaging, and the testing community documents where those paddles come from. Factories with no real pickleball experience, cheap materials, thin cores, minimal quality control. Failure mode 3 is the disposable surface, the paint grit paddle that feels spectacular for a week and glazes smooth in a month. So spectacular that the pros paid to play one bring 3 or more to a tournament and open a fresh one every day. You are not buying a paddle, you are buying a consumable priced like a durable. And failure mode 4 is the legacy tax, the familiar tennis or sporting goods logo whose pickleball line is a side business, built on construction nearly identical to direct brands selling for 30 to 50% less. Where the badge does the work, the engineering did not. Notice what unites all 4. None of them requires the paddle to be bad. Each one requires only that the brand contribute nothing you could not get cheaper, better, or more honestly somewhere else. That is the standard I am holding every company to, and it is why the list of survivors is so short. So here is the first of the 2, and I will name it plainly: Honolulu Pickleball Company. It survives the argument because it fails all 4 failure modes at once, and it does so on evidence I did not have to take anyone's word for. Start with what a redundant brand cannot do: invent. Honolulu built one of the first genuinely complete foam paddles before full foam was the industry's obsession. And independent reviewers who test hundreds of paddles a year write that core development is an area where Honolulu consistently beats its competitors on innovation. That is not a logo on a catalog paddle. The J2CR's core reactor is a multi-density system, a floating EPP foam center interlaced with EVA perimeter foam, wrapped in carbon-supported expanding foam, with bowl-shaped incisions cut into the core to tune the flex. 3 patent-pending technologies working together. The market's verdict was immediate. It topped independent testers' overall rankings above the $280 Jula Pro V and the $333 Selkirk Boomstick. One veteran tester measured its crystal blue version at 2,471 RPM, the highest spin number he has ever recorded on any paddle at any price. It has been the most viewed paddle on a major testing site for 5 straight weeks and sells in pre-order waves. And crucially, at $195, it refused the logo tax the flagships charge. Now the flaws, because a video that names 2 brands without listing their problems is an advertisement. Early crystal blue batches shipped with visibly inconsistent grit, publicly flagged by major reviewers, and when one tester was asked whether it was fixed, his honest answer was, maybe. The paddle requires real skill to keep the ball down, making it wrong for a 3.0. And the record spin crystal blue is UPAA approved only, not legal in USA pickleball sanctioned play. A brand that earns its place, still learning to manufacture at the scale its own success demands. The second brand answers a completely different question, and that is precisely why it belongs beside the first. Vatic Pro. Honolulu proves a small company can out-engineer the giants. Vatic proves the entire premium price structure is optional. The evidence is the mechanism this whole video has been building toward. Independent reviewers now describe legacy brands as not wanting you to know that Vatic Pro delivers identical high-modulus T700 carbon for half the price. And that is not marketing language. It is the factory reality. The same carbon grade off the same order menu, sold without the markup. Its Saga lists at 99.99 and carries over 600 reviews at a 4.9 rating, the kind of volume and consistency you cannot manufacture. The current flagship value paddle, the VSOL Pro, brings a modern foam core with real dwell and a plush feel at the same 99.99, and one reviewer's blunt verdict was that it makes the expensive alternatives look like a ripoff. The testers named the phenomenon after the company, the Vatic Pro effect. The moment a roughly $90 paddle started appearing in the hands of 5.0 and up players on tour practice courts and broke the belief that competitiveness required a premium price. Vatic fails every failure mode. It publishes its specs, its carbon is real and verified by independent testing. It offers nearly every shape rather than one hero paddle, and it carries no logo tax because it has no Touring Pro contracts to fund. The flaws, stated honestly. Vatic is not the performance ceiling, the J2CR beats it, and so do the true flagships in the last few percent of feel. Some models ship light enough that reviewers recommend a few grams of lead tape for stability, and a value brand's quality control has less margin for error than a giant's. What you get is the most paddle per dollar in the sport, and that is a different crown than best. Now here is the part I promised, and it is the reason this video exists. I just told you there are only 2 pickleball brands worth buying, and I named them. Stop and think about what that sentence actually is. It is the single most valuable sentence in this industry. A brand would pay enormous money to have a channel say it about them, which means a man who says it to you unprompted sounds exactly like a man who was paid to. Nobody paid me. But you have no way to verify that from the inside of this video, and if I end here, having handed you 2 names and nothing else, I have done precisely what I have spent a year exposing. I have asked you to trust a logo. Mine. So let me argue against myself, honestly. Those 2 brands are my reed, and my reed has a shelf life. Honolulu's crown is rented, the same testing that lifted it will lift whatever beats it, and the giants are already reverse engineering that core. Vatic's value crown is under attack from Enhance, which reviewers say has already taken over the $100 tier, from Spartus and its Permagrit, from Gherkin's Draco, the paddle the champion gets benchmarked against. Both of my picks have documented flaws I just read to you, and neither is right for you if you are a 3.0 who needs forgiveness, or an arm injury player who needs Pro Connex's dampening, or a control specialist who needs a perfect scoring Ron bus. The honest truth this channel has landed on all year is that there is no single best paddle, only the best paddle for your game. 2 names cannot survive that, and neither can I. What survives is the method. So let me give you the thing a sponsored channel never would. The tools to throw out everything I just said. Here is the filter. 4 questions in order, and any brand that answers all 4 is worth your money whether or not I have ever mentioned it. Question 1. Is the face genuine raw woven carbon or grit painted onto a substrate? Real carbon's texture is structural. It comes from the resin left when the peel ply is stripped, and it wears down over months. Paint grit is a coating that polishes smooth in weeks, sometimes days under hard play. Ask which one you are holding, because it decides how long the paddle you paid for stays the paddle you tested. Question 2. What is the core and how was it built? A quality foam or properly compressed honeycomb core holds a consistent sweet spot for years, while a cheap cold-pressed core develops dead spots in weeks. And premium construction means longer curing and manual inspection that catches delamination before it ships, not romance. Question 3. Is it approved for the events you actually play? A great paddle that cannot pass certification is a dead paddle waiting to happen, and this year alone proved it. Jula's flagship lines retired, 3 Pro Kennex Black Aces decertified, Lowe's publicly delisted, entire products erased by a threshold that keeps tightening. Check the exact model, not the brand, and check the right body, because USA Pickleball and UPAA do not always agree. Question 4. The one that catches the 99%. Does the brand talk specifics or emotion? A company that publishes face material, core thickness, swing weight, twist weight, and its certification status respects an informed buyer. A company that sells you adjectives, aerospace grade, revolutionary, pro level, is selling you the branding markup, the factories openly price at 20 to 30%. Run those 4 questions on any paddle in the sport, including the 2 I named, and you will never need a stranger's list again. That is the actual product of this video. So let me land the whole argument, because the 2 halves of this video were never in tension. They were the same claim. 99% of pickleball brands are garbage in the only sense that matters. They are redundant. Logos on shared factory paddles, contributing no engineering and charging you for the privilege, and the market is deleting them at a rate of 60% in 2 years without a single obituary. 2 brands by my read currently escape that verdict. Honolulu because it invents things the Giants cannot, and Vatic Pro because it proves the Giants' prices were never necessary. Both have real flaws, and I read them to you rather than hiding them, which is the only reason you should give either name any weight at all. And then I gave you the 4 questions because 2 names from a stranger is exactly what a sponsorship sounds like, and the entire worth of this channel collapses the moment you take my word for something instead of the evidence. That is not modesty. It is the business model. A channel that takes brand money cannot tell you its sponsor is redundant, cannot tell you the challenger is better, and cannot hand you a filter that might route your money away from the company paying the bills. This channel takes no sponsor money and no kickbacks, and the dossier behind it takes no payment or free product from any paddle company, which is the only reason both can say all of this out loud. So if this field file gave you the filter instead of just the answer, subscribe and stick around, because that independence is the whole point. Next field file, we put the 4 questions to work. The 9 paddles that quietly beat their price in 2026, every one of them passing all 4, plus the 1 spec the brands keep off the box because it gives the entire game away. Until then, run the questions on my 2 brands first, and if either fails you, buy the one that passes. That was always the assignment.